Peace, greetings to you all. It's your brother Naheem, BKA Lord Abba, AKA Mr. Just the Facts. Mr. Just the Facts. Family, make sure you all hit the like button, share this video out. We're trying to grow this particular channel, our BTP Media Group channel. We are striving to provide the best possible content that we can. Matter of fact, I mean, we've been doing that for the past several years. That's what we have a reputation of doing, providing some of the best political and educational commentary in this space, particularly as it pertains to the topic of reparations and American freedmen. If you are not subscribed to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make sure you hit the little bell icon next to the subscribe button so that you can become a part of the notification nation and be notified every time Be the Power, United Sons and Daughters of Freedmen goes live with our dynamic content. Shout outs. We got Sister Riri always in the building. BTP Riri is on deck. What's good, sis? KT is in the building. KT said they know race-based won't stand a court challenge. Stopping reparations is what NCOBRA is paid to do. I am inclined to believe that, KT. I am inclined to believe that as well. So let me see. How do I want to start this? Right? Because man, me and the brothers, we were just building. Everybody's a little bit busy. So I don't know who's going to be able to jump on tonight. So I might be holding it down dolo. But we were just building on this House Resolution 414, and geez, I mean, the language is horrible. When you're like, there's things in this bill that you can tell that many of these people have been listening to us, like people like Jessica Ann Mitchell Iwuyar. They've been listening to us. So they're taking bits and pieces of, just like when we popularized the term reparationist, people like Jam and the Pan-Africanists, they started using the term, right? Because they seen how popular it got all over Twitter. And we can see in this bill where they've cited
certain things that have mainly been cited on the BTP platform. And we're going to get to some of that. We're going to get into this bill, but I'm thinking first, I'm going to start with let's start with strict scrutiny. Let us start with strict scrutiny. Sister Antonia, what's going on? I see you. Boston Freedmen are on deck. The Boston Freedmen are on deck. I want to. How do I want to do this? You know what? Let's play Erwin Chemerinsky's testimony at the Reparations Task Force in California first. Then I'm going to read from the Cornell Law University's website on strict scrutiny and a bunch of other things. And then we're going to start breaking down the bill. I want to set the table with this thing. I see my dude, Michael Doctor, my dude, Shug is in the building. Always got, every time somebody from my hood pop in, I got to shout out my hood. Hamels Projects for Rockaway, Queens, always. Always good to see my fam from my hood listening in on the content, man. You know, this is who I do it for, largely the people that come from neighborhoods like mine, and for my children. You know, my children first and foremost, of course. Muffet Nellen is in the building. What's good? What's good, bro? Jonathan Bryant Freedman in the building. The New England Freedman is in the building, family. The New England Freedmen are on deck. So I want to start with playing. Let's play Erwin Chemerinsky's testimony at the California Reparations Task Force. Make sure y'all hit the like button on the video. I don't care if you're watching from YouTube, if you're watching from Facebook, or if you're watching from Twitter. Of course, I preferably would like for, even if you're watching from those platforms, to go to the YouTube channel and just click like on the YouTube channel. What's going on? What's going on, brother Derek? Black Seed, Child of Life, DC Freedmen are in the building. The family be forming like Voltron when we go in, right? Voltron only had 5 parts to it, and it was busting down everything. It didn't need 1,000 different moving parts. And that's how this Freedmen movement is. But eventually, it'll grow into 1,000 different moving parts. DP is in the building. We know who that is. Our good brother from Brooklyn. You know what I'm saying? You know, the New York Freedmen are on deck. New York Freedmen are on deck. We forming Voltron. We forming Voltron, and the Freedman status will form the head. You know what I'm saying? Like over here at BTP, we just wanted the arms and the feet and the trunk, just like everybody else. The Freedman status and what our ancestors paved the way for us to do, it forms the head. So shout out to everybody that's on deck. All right, let us get into this thing, family. All right, so let me share it first, of course. Make sure y'all click that like button. Sister Shanna, what's going on? My California Bay Area Freedmen is on deck. The BTP mods and BTP members are in the building. They're in the building. All right, so let's pull up one of our videos where we shared the video of Erwin Chemerinsky giving his expert testimony at the California Reparations Task Force.
Dean Erwin Chemerinsky is an American legal scholar known for his studies of United States constitutional law and federal civil procedure. He served as the founding dean of the University of California Irvine School of Law from 2008 to 2017 and is currently the dean of the University of California Berkeley School of Law. A study of legal publications between 2016 and 2020 found Chemerinsky to be the most frequently cited American legal scholar. Chemerinsky was named a Fellow of the American Academy of the Arts and Sciences in 2016. The National Jurist magazine named him the most influential person in legal education in the United States in 2017. And in 2021, Chemerinsky was named president-elect of the Association of American Law Schools. Very, very happy to have Dean Chemerinsky here with us. And without further ado, Dean Chemerinsky, you may start your expert testimony when you're ready. Thanks again.
Thank you. Thank you for that kind introduction. My honor to be able to testify before you. I'm here to address one question. How to structure reparations in the way most likely to be upheld by the courts. My conclusion is that reparation is most likely to be upheld by the courts if it's structured in a race-neutral fashion. That is, it's most likely to be upheld by the courts if reparations are for those who were descendants of slaves rather than for all who are Black.
So pay attention to what Chemerinsky said. There's a reason why I started it from Sister Camilla Moore's introduction. And shout out to Sister Camilla Moore. She's out there in California holding it down. I always give a shout out to that sister because the work that she's doing is monumental. It is monumental. But there's a reason why I started with her introduction of Erwin Chemerinsky, because what she did, she edified him by reading off his accomplishments and how he is recognized in the legal society. In fact, one of the sisters that I build with that is a lawyer said, I think for her dissertation, she had to use one of Erwin Chemerinsky's either papers or books for her dissertation. I think it was a dissertation. I'm not sure. But it was something that she had to write using Chemerinsky's work. So we know that this man is an expert on this subject. This American freedman layer, however, it adds a layer that I don't believe that Chemerinsky previously considered. And this is why, and if anybody's listening and they could get us in contact, BTP in contact with Chemerinsky, we would have a very productive and powerful conversation, and he will see the direction that we over here as the United Sons and Daughters of Freedmen, the direction that we're moving in and how we speak this particular language as to not trigger strict scrutiny. So let's matter of fact, let me finish saying what I got to say. I said too damn much in that. What he said is that using race is going to trigger the challenge. Legislation has to be race neutral. And that's why the title of this video says Cori Bush's Flawed Reparations Bill or proposal, excuse me. So let's finish listening.
In the United States, under current constitutional law, and in California under Proposition 209, laws that give a preference on the basis of race are either inherently suspect or perhaps per se illegal. And therefore the question is, how can reparations be structured in a way that would get through judicial review? Let me talk about two sources of law, the California Constitution and then the United States Constitution, to explain why I've come to this conclusion, then briefly respond to some of the questions that you might have about the position I'm taking, and then answer anything that you want to ask of me. The first source of law that you need to focus on is the California Constitution, what was commonly referred to as Proposition 209. It was called the California Civil Rights Initiative. It says that the state of California and all of its political subdivisions cannot discriminate or give preference on the basis of race in education, employment, or contracting. And so if reparations are given on the basis of race, that anyone who meets the definition of being Black is entitled to reparations because all have suffered from the legacy of slavery, I don't think it could survive a challenge under Proposition 209.
So now, let's stop right there, right? He's using a California law to speak about reparations or the reparations initiative that they are pushing for in California. And he's letting it be known that if you try to use race-based legislation, like saying reparations for all Black people It will not survive a challenge. Where is Prop 209 drawing that language from? It is drawing that language from the Supreme Court and what it calls strict scrutiny under the doctrine of suspect classifications. And we're gonna get into that after. You know what? I'll get into that after this, and then we'll get into Cori Bush's bill.
Proposition 209 is limited to education, contracting, and employment. And if the reparations were not in those areas, then Proposition 209 wouldn't be a problem. But if it's in education, or if it is in contracting, or if it is employment, then anything that is deemed as a preference on the basis of race is per se impermissible. This is different than what I'll talk about.
You can't do it based on race, family. This is the top constitutional law professor in the country. So what Cori Bush and the people that she's associated with, what they are doing is they're ignoring us grassroots reparationists. They are ignoring the grassroots reparationists that's heading the California task force right now. They're ignoring all of this. And I know that there's certain language that has been crafted up and drafted up in the language of AB 3121 that was already established before, if I'm not mistaken, before this full task force was even formed. And you got to work with it the way that you have to work with it. See, we understand that over here. We know that because we've been saying that from get-go. We just decided to fall back. Like I'll get into that one day. The team and I will get into that one day. Just not right now. But I want to stop and pause and give explanation to people that don't understand what this man is saying. You cannot create legislation based on race. And I know many may be thinking, well, if that's the case, then how are we going to get reparations, right? Because what happened that and why we're fighting for reparations and the things that happened to us is based on the fact that we were black people, quote unquote, black people in this country. And we have the answer to that question. And we're going to get to that.
About in a moment, the United States Constitution, where there is the possibility of racial preferences being constitutional. Under the California Constitution, they're not. There's relatively little case law about Proposition 209, but that which exists broadly defines what is preference. It would be hard to imagine that there'd be a reparation system that was racially defined that wouldn't run afoul of this. Now, as I said in my introduction, if this were defined as a benefit for those who are descendants of slaves, it would certainly largely overlap with race, but it would not entirely overlap with race. There are blacks who are not descendants of slaves. There's a very small population that were enslaved that wouldn't be blacks. So I think there'd be a strong argument based on Proposition 209 that limiting reparations to those who are descendants of slaves would not run afoul of Prop 209. Whereas if this is defined in a race-based manner, then I think Proposition 209 would be a substantial problem. But assume that Proposition 209 wasn't a problem. Imagine this wasn't reparation about education, contracting, and employment, in which case it would be entirely outside the scope of Proposition 209. There is still the United States Constitution. And the Supreme Court has said now for over 30 years that racial classifications benefiting minorities, just like racial classifications that disadvantage minorities, are highly suspect. The Supreme Court has said that racial classifications benefiting minorities, like those disadvantaging minorities, must meet strict scrutiny. As I'm sure the Commission knows, strict scrutiny means that the government action has to be necessary to achieve a compelling government purpose. And the Supreme Court has been very restrictive as to what counts as a compelling purpose in this context. Quite relevant to your Commission, the Supreme Court has said that remedying a history of past discrimination is not a compelling purpose sufficient to justify remedial action. There was a Supreme Court case, Wygant versus Jackson Board of Education. The Jackson, Michigan school system had recently hired a number of Black teachers when it needed to have layoffs. It decided to fire white teachers with more seniority. Their argument was that this was to remedy a long history of race discrimination. They also said how important it was to provide role models for Black children in the schools. The Supreme Court declared this unconstitutional. The court's opinion was explicit that there cannot be preferences based on race on the grounds of remedying the history of discrimination. Or there's the case J. Croson versus City of Richmond. Richmond, Virginia, the capital of the old Confederacy, set aside 30% of its public works monies for minority-owned businesses. They did so because even though at that time Richmond was a city that was more than 50% Black, racial minorities and Blacks were receiving only about 1% of public works contracts. But the Supreme Court declared this unconstitutional. And the court said the long history of race discrimination, including in Richmond, Virginia, didn't justify the preference that was given on the basis of race. There is, as of now, only one area where the United States Supreme Court has allowed race-conscious remedies, and that's in the area of higher education. In a series of cases, the Supreme Court has said that college universities have a compelling interest in a diverse student body, that college universities may use race as one factor among many in admissions decisions to enhance diversity to benefit minorities.
All right, I'm going to stop it. I'm going to stop it right there, family. So, because, I got the point in that I wanted you all to hear, especially those that may be hearing this for the first time. So my bro asked in the chat, is this pertaining to San Francisco or the whole state of Cali? What he's saying pertains to the whole state of California and also nationally. That's why he spoke to Proposition 209, which is a California state law, and he spoke to how the federal government via the Supreme Court looks at racial legislation. It's going to get shot down with the exception of the areas of higher education. And even in that, most of these selective institutions choose Black immigrants over American freedmen. And when I say American freedmen, I mean those of us whose ancestors descend back to an emancipated person in this country. Notice how I use that language, family. I said we can trace back to a descendant of emancipated persons in this country. The language is so key. We don't say the descendants of slavery because slavery was a specific status. And that status highlighted the condition of a certain group of citizens. Yes, they were citizens in the South, citizens with disabilities. It highlighted their standing in this particular society, which is why we hold that slavery was not legal and that slavery was not constitutional. In fact, like Sanders Spooner, abolitionist in the 1800s, wrote a whole book called The Unconstitutionality of Slavery. And one day we are going to break that book down as well. I know we've been saying that on this platform for a few minutes, but we haven't got to it yet, but we will. Shout out to people that's listening in. Brother LaFair Ward, peace, what's going on, fam? Iron Physique, peace to you. Let me pull this up. Societe Commentare, whatever that means, says, Lord Abba, you were wrong for going in on Sabir Bay like that. The conscious community needs better decorum if we're to be taken seriously. Fam, a peace. Shout out to A Boogie. What's going on, fam? I see you. Yeah, I'll pull up what our brother from Brooklyn says. Societe Commentare was severe wrong for trafficking and white supremacist tropes about Black Americans. You see, that's what Sabir Bey did. And we have to root out the so-called black people among us that have that so-called white people mentality, and that's what Sabir Bey has. And people are cult followers, and they take ignorant people as their leaders, and then they take on the qualities of those people, and they will take a critique such as the one that I gave of Sabir Bey's bashing of our people as some form of disrespect, when ultimately that's what Sabir Bey did. And I'm going to talk to a little bit of that at the end of this live stream. Not that guy, but what we need to do as individuals going forward. So we got Brother Ali on. You are on right on time. BTP Cori is in the building. Shout out. We got the fam up in here today, man. We got the fam up in here today. So Ali, I'm going to pull up strict scrutiny from the Cornell Law website. But before I do that, is there anything you want to share before we get into this? I can't hear you, bro, if you're speaking. All right, I'm not sure if Brother Ali's audio is working. So let's see. Let's go into Cornell Law School's website. This is their Legal Information Institute. I mean, this is a website that the brothers at Be the Power have been using since, 2009. We've been pulling up a lot of stuff. So let us read strict scrutiny, and then we're going to break this down, and we're going to get into Cori Bush's problematic bill or proposal. Okay, so let me see, make sure y'all looking at it. All right, y'all can see it good. I'll try to blow it up a little bit more. There we go. All right, strict scrutiny. Strict scrutiny is a form of judicial review that courts use to determine the constitutionality of certain laws. Strict scrutiny is often used by courts when a plaintiff sues the government for discrimination. To pass strict scrutiny, meaning strict scrutiny is a test, the legislator must have passed the law to further a quote-unquote compelling governmental interest, and must have narrowly tailored the law to achieve that interest. Strict scrutiny is the highest standard of review which a court will use to evaluate the constitutionality of governmental discrimination. The other two standards are intermediate scrutiny and rational basis review. So before we move on to application, I want to click on intermediate scrutiny. I don't know if y'all are going to be able to see that. Okay, yeah, it does pop up. Cool. All right, let's read this real quick. Overview. Intermediate scrutiny is a test courts will use to determine a statute's constitutionality. Intermediate scrutiny is only invoked when a state or the federal government passes a statute which negatively affects certain protected classes. This is described in further detail in the next section. To pass intermediate scrutiny, the challenged law must, 1, further an important government interest. 2, it must do so by means that are substantially related to that interest. As the name implies, intermediate scrutiny is less rigorous than strict scrutiny, but more rigorous than the rationale basis test, which I'm not going to get into. But I wanted to pull intermediate scrutiny up so that it can sit in people's minds as we move forward in our understanding and think about ways to not only defeat challenges that will come against legislation that we're proposing, but how to also challenge certain things ourselves as a group. Keep that in mind. Intermediate scrutiny is key in many instances because what did it say? A statute which negatively affects certain protected classes. Freedmen is a status. American freedmen is the first protected class in this United States of America. Many people will say, no, it was the Indians. Well, the United States was still warring with several Indian tribes at the time that they were cutting deals with those Indians. So, in a broad sense, American freedmen are the first protected class in this country. All right, we got Brother Ibrahim on as well. So, the bros is jumping on. So let me scroll back. So I want to get into application of strict scrutiny, and then we'll move on. Application, equal protection, strict scrutiny. Now remember, this is what Erwin Chemerinsky is speaking about in his testimony, in his not just understanding, but his knowledge of how the courts, how the structuring of legislation works when race is invoked. And he gave examples of, in Detroit, and another example I forget off top of the head, of how certain legislation that was race-based was drafted and how it got challenged and eventually shut down by the courts. Equal protection. Strict scrutiny will often be invoked in an equal protection claim. For a court to apply strict scrutiny, the legislature must either have passed a law that infringes upon a fundamental right or involves a suspect classification. Suspect classifications include race, national origin, religion, and alienage. So let us click on suspect classification, because this is where the rubber starts to hit the road. Race-based legislation, which is what Cori Bush is proposing. So, suspect classification, definition. Suspect classification refers to a class of individuals that have been historically subject to discrimination. Interesting. Overview. Under equal protection, when a statute discriminates against an individual based on a suspect classification, the statute will be subject to either strict scrutiny or intermediate scrutiny. There are 4 generally agreed upon suspect classifications: race, religion, national origin, and alienage. However, this is not an inclusive list. So, how does this work when it comes to us? Think about the farmers in North Carolina. I don't want to stop sharing my screen, but I already have this pulled up in a PDF that I pulled up, right? So I want to read. You know what? I'll stop sharing my screen. Hold on. I'll stop sharing. Let's stop sharing this. Let's pull up the PDF. The PowerPoint, excuse me. Family, make sure y'all click like on the button. Click like on the video. Make sure y'all have shared this video out. We got to cook in here today. So this is the headline. Relief payments to Black farmers stalled by conservative group lawsuits. So let's read it. It says, the suit takes issue with sections 1005 and 1006 of the American Rescue Plan, enacted in March, that uses language in the 1990 Farm Bill to define quote unquote socially disadvantaged agricultural producers as people quote subjected to racial or ethnic prejudices because of their identity as a member of a group without regard to their individual qualities. I'm going to scroll down to this part. It says the language does not prevent white farmers from also applying to the program, but all 3 lawsuits argue that the program excludes white farmers and is therefore discriminating against white farmers. Go back to what we said about the definition of strict scrutiny. It says under equal protection, when a statute discriminates against an individual based on a suspect classification, the statute will be subject to either strict scrutiny or intermediate scrutiny. And under strict scrutiny, it says I don't have to read strict scrutiny because I've read that already. I just wanted to read that part of suspect classification, under suspect classifications, that when this particular farm bill law was drafted, it spoke about socially disadvantaged groups and it names those groups. It names, hold on one second. It names African American, American Indian, or Alaska Native, or Asian or Pacific Islander groups. It names them. Doesn't name white people. This triggered strict scrutiny, which then triggered suspect classifications because white people said that they were being discriminated against, and they proved it. What did the Biden administration do? They shut it down, and that's why the farmers are saying that they're having, they're going at Biden at this point right now, which is why I would love for those farmers to come on Be the Power. If anybody's connected with them, shoot them this video. Let them know that we are having a conversation in a way that is completely different from the way other people are having this conversation. And we believe through the freedman status, through us identifying as American freedmen, we can remedy much of what we've been going through in this country. Peace, Sister Queen, Yasmin. Peace to everybody else that has joined. Brother Ibrahim, did you have anything to share so far based on this subject, man? This is a deep topic. We're gonna get into Cori Bush's bill. What are your thoughts on everything?
So basically, a way that this whole language was simplified for me was that because America used race-based legislation to marginalize us and to harm our group, we fought during the first civil rights, and then we fought during the second civil rights movement to get race-based legislation deemed unconstitutional and illegal, right? That's the implementation of the 13th and 14th Amendment, is that you can't harm this specific group using race-based legislation, and you can't harm any group, but you also can't benefit them with it as well. So it was kind of a double-edged sword. While it was enacted to get races off our backs, it also doesn't let them undo the harm using race-based legislation. So you have to get more craftier.
That's right. And that's what this is about, right? Napoleon Hill has a book. It's a self-help book, but the title is still apropos. How to Outwit the Devil. Outwitting the devil. And that's what we have to do. We have to outwit the devil. And our ancestors and the radical Republicans of the Reconstruction era gave us the out. That's why y'all hear me say all the time, and y'all going to continue to hear me say that in Eric Foner's book, The Second Founding, he says that he's surprised that today's civil rights activists are not using those Reconstruction amendments for our remedy. We over here, family, will be using those amendments because those amendments tie directly to the status of freedmen. So with that said, let us pull up Cori Bush's
but that's
brother.
That's good. I'll just add this part. That's good that Chemerinsky is setting the president as a scholar of constitutional law, that anything that's race-based or related to race, running parallel with race, that can be intertwined with race, is a poison pill for any type of remedy, and it won't survive a judicial challenge. So when you see things like African American or Black American, it's not going to be able to withstand a judicial challenge. So that's basically what that intro was about. So when you see this legislation, just understand that either these people ain't serious or they're just ignorant.
That's right. That's right. Brother Ali said he's having some connection issues. So we're going to keep it moving. We're going to keep it pushing. So let us get into Cori Bush's bill. And I hope that not just Cori Bush, but the people that she's connected with, the Narcan and Cobras, the Jessica Ann Mitchell Iowa. Like, these people are actively working to undermine reparative justice for the American freedmen family. They are. They have become like other reparationists in this space that will block anybody that disagrees with their position and their stance. And those reparationists, y'all know who I'm talking about. They don't even want to use the word reparationist, which is not our word. We just popularized it because we came up with it. Well, that's why they're winning. That's why they are gathering in Washington, D.C. That's why they are holding events. Matter of fact, where's that? Oh, man, I thought I had it right there. That's why they are holding these events. Let me see. Can I pull this up real quick? That is exactly why they are doing what they are doing right now. For whatever reason. Okay. I don't know. Why is this thing acting slow right now? I don't like that. I just got this new computer. All right. So let me pull this up real quick. All right. Well, hold on. Oh, hold on, family. So look at what they're doing. Dr. Ray Wimbush, Dr. Akinyele Umoja. He sounds like he's from Africa somewhere. Professor Natsu Taylor Sayato. That sounds Japanese to me. Co-hosted by the Reparations Education Project and National Black Cultural Information Trust, and Kichi Taifa and Jam Iwuya. These two, particularly in Kichi Taifa and especially Jam Iwuya, these people are actively out in the field trying to undermine our reparations, family. They don't care if we get it. Matter of fact, they don't want us to get it. They don't. And we can tell because they too are blocking everybody. They don't want to have a debate. They don't want to have a serious conversation. We invited Dr. Ray Wimbush into a Twitter space. I was trying to get up on that Twitter space so bad. I don't think Sister Roz seen my hand going up. But this guy was talking. He started just disrespecting Sister Roz. I mean, just became disrespectful. You know, these people try to paint us some type of way, but every time we have dealings with these people, it seems like their rhetoric is always disrespectful, always. And this guy ran like the coward that he is, and we have to call him a coward. He didn't want to have a direct conversation with anybody. Brother Ali was on that stage, but he was a little bit busy. And by the time Ali got on, Ray Wimbush got off. We don't respect these people, fam, and they don't respect us. They don't. They don't respect us at all. So let's close this out and let's get into Cori Bush's proposal. And we're going to break down this problematic language. All right, let me see if y'all can see that clearly. Okay, perfect. Okay, so, no, my bad. That's not it. My bad. Let's close that out. Oh, I am on it. My bad, I am on it. My bad. All right. I'm so anxious to get into this. I'm having brain lapses. Make sure y'all hit that like button. Make sure y'all share the video out. Make sure y'all subscribe. Nobody's dropping it like BTP. That's not a brag or a boast, not a flex. It's just the facts. So this was introduced on May 17th, 2023, which was yesterday. We seen Cori Bush and several NARC and NCOBRA operatives like Mark Thompson. This guy is just like the rest of these people that are connected to your Roland Martins and your Greg Carrs and all of those people who are actively trying to undermine reparations because they know that it's going to dampen their push moving forward for their presidential candidate, which in this case is Joe Biden, and for a lot of other things that the Democrats are trying to do. You heard the top Black Democrat at the convention in South Carolina that I attended. You heard what he said. It's all over the internet right now. He doesn't care about reparations. And he feels that reparations is not about checks or money or cash, I believe was his words, but that it was about repair, which means he doesn't understand that the wealth gap between American freedmen and the people called white in this country has to be repaired because it is a part of something that is broken. These people are incompetent on this subject. They know how to play the game of politics, but when it comes to the political nuts and bolts on this topic of reparations, these people are out of their league, and we have proven ourselves to be head and shoulders above them on this particular subject. And this is why they fear us. This is why they don't want to have a conversation with us. So let us look at House Resolution 414. We see the sponsors, Ms. Bush for herself, Barbara Lee of California, Rashida Tlaib, Ayanna Presley, Jamal Bowen. I don't know who Miss Ramirez is. I don't know Miss Lee of Pennsylvania, Ilhan Omar, Mr. Jackson of Illinois, Mr. Green of Texas. Submitted the following resolution, which was referred to the Committee of the Judiciary. So we know that this thing is going to, be placed for a vote. Those of you that know how the process goes knows how the process goes. We also know that if it gets approval through this Republican-led House, which I seriously doubt, that it's going to go to the Senate, where it's going to get shot down. It's going to get shot down because of this problematic language. That's if it makes it out of the House. If the Republicans choose to challenge it, the drafters of this legislation gave them every means by which they could challenge it and defeat this thing before it ever gains any wings. So, resolution. First sentence is extremely problematic. It reads, recognizing that the United States has a moral and legal obligation to provide reparations for the enslavement of Africans and its lasting harm on the lives of millions of Black people in the United States. This is the NARC and NCOBRA language that they are trying to sneak in. Enslavement of Africans. First and foremost, when you're using this problematic language, what the right wing is going to do, and we know because we were watching them in the media invoke the fact that Africans sold other Africans to Europeans, whom then brought them over here and bought them or sold them to people who bought them, creating the system of chattel slavery that we have today, something that the world has never seen before, where a group was targeted solely based on their race. What Thomas Sowell says is completely false, completely false. So when you say enslavement of Africans, you have already defeated your bill in the opening sentence. It will not get any further than this. It doesn't need to. The right is going to focus on and harp on this as they should, because this is trash. And we have to call it trash because our livelihoods and the future of our progeny is at stake. The second part of this sentence, that's wrong. Go back and listen to what Erwin Chemerinsky said about creating legislation based on race and its lasting harm on the lives of millions of Black people in the United States. Black is a racial classification. It's a racial classification that was established in this country a long time ago, really, but officially established in 1972 with the passage of Federal Directive 15, which says that these racial classifications are not based on anything scientific or anthropological in nature. Meaning, if it's not based on science and it's not based on anthropology, it is particularly Black and white based on public opinion. Public opinion. And this is codified in the language that we are using to identify ourselves and how we are self-identifying in this country, which is why the term black, and this isn't no Moorish stuff we're talking. This is just a fact. Why the term black and Negro are problematic. Stay tuned, because Brother Ali is putting together a master class dissecting the term Negro, which is going to ultimately dissect the term black by proxy. The next line, problematic. It says, whereas black people are and have always been human beings, yet the federal government has historically failed to recognize our dignity and our humanity. Again, go back to what I just said. Black people are merely a creature of legislation in this country. Pull up Federal Directive 15 right now, family, and you are going to see for yourself that it says these racial classifications are not based on anything scientific or anthropological in nature. After you read that, take a look at your own brown skin, and you can clearly see that it is not black. This term black, which comes from the Spanish word Negro, black is the German version of that word, was given to us to degrade us. It was given to us so that we can be viewed as subhumans in the eyes of another group of people, the Europeans, who took on the name white, a name denoting superiority. And if you look at their skin tones, you will clearly see that they are not white. They are pale or bleached versions of the brown skin that we have right now. This is an observational fact that cannot be refuted at all. And if it can be, step up. Show me your black skin and show me those people that have white skin. That's all you have to do. So there's a bunch of stuff. Ibrahim, did you have anything you wanted to add? Oh, he fell off. Ibrahim, did you have anything that you wanted to add before I pull up some more of this problematic stuff? Because we're not going to read the whole thing.
Nah, keep going.
Okay, so let me see. Where do I want to pull up first? Some of this stuff is crazy, man. Let me see. What do I want to pull up first? Because I have some things bookmarked. Let me see. Okay, I know what I want to pull up first. Let's keyword vestiges real quick. Find vestiges. Boom, boom. Okay, so here is more problematic language. Whereas the federal government must compensate the descendants of enslaved black people. See, this is that Jam Iwuyar and Kichi Taifa, Narc, and in Cobra language that's in this bill. They know what they're doing. They're sitting around laughing. They're laughing, saying, oh, yeah, we got them with this. We are undermining. They are giving themselves virtual high fives. We got them with this. They're listening to us, family, and we know that they're listening to us. They hear our argument. I've been in clubhouse rooms with these same people. These same people absolutely destroyed every last one of them. Every last one of them. So they know what the arguments are. And they are crafting legislation with the intent of undermining the language that we would use in a proper reparations House resolution proposal. That's why we have to unite politically. And I'm not calling on unification with the people in this space. We are on this side content with going into the streets and doing grassroots work. And I tell you, that's what I've been doing on this end. That's what our team has been doing. And that's what we are building on. The people in this space, it's a wrap. I'm not trying to unify with no more of any of these people. We have a lot of disloyal people, and that has led to the disunity that is leading to ultimately our destruction, because that's what this is. This is a destruction of the things that we've been fighting for the past 4 years. So I am no longer interested in unifying with people that's in this space. Be the power, the United Sons and Daughters of Freedmen will always, because we have always been, stand up. Point blank, period. So let me read this again. Whereas the federal government must compensate the descendants of enslaved Black people and people of African descent in the form of direct monetary reparations for the harms and vestiges of chattel slavery and its evolutions, as well as with other targeted benefits. This whole sentence sounds off to me, right? So first and foremost, we know that enslaved Black people and people of African descent, this is slick language, because Cam Howard and Ron Daniels, the heads and former heads of Narcan and Cobra, I don't know which one is the head of which and who is the former head of what, but we know that they are notorious for saying, shout out to OG Arthur Ward in the building. He said he's going to do a breakdown on his blog. Y'all make sure y'all follow OG Arthur Ward's blog. Oh man, what is it called? Put the name in the chat. The Freedman Absolute is the name of it. Put a link to your. Now let me do it. Hold on, hold on, because nobody will be able to click on the link from your. If you put it in the inbox, but I'll put it in the inbox. But matter of fact, let me make the OG Arthur Ward a. Hold on, let me put the link in first, and then I'm gonna put the OG. I'm gonna give the OG a wrench. Certain people deserve wrenches when they come to our channel. Give the OG Otis. Make sure the OG Otis got his wrench as well. Hold on one second, family. Just making sure my peoples is right up in here. All right, I don't see OG Otis up in here. All right, but I put the link to the Freedman Absolute blog in here. The OG gone off of the wines, man. I mean, and it's crazy because when he's writing these blogs while sipping his $650 bottles of Château Lafite Rothschild, let me not try to act like I could pronounce some of this stuff. His French bottles of wine, the OG goes in and he's cooking Narc and Cobra and Jessica Ann Mitchell and Kaichi Taifa and Robin Rue Simmons and all of these bad actors who are tied to this reparations movement. Absolutely cooking them. Y'all make sure y'all check out the OG's blog. Okay, let's get back to this. So this language, right? Monetary reparations for the harms and vestiges of chattel slavery and its evolutions. See, us reparationists, particularly over here and Be the Power of the United Sons and Daughters of Freedmen, we word things based on already established legal language, which is no longer in use today, but goes back to the legal language that was used back in the day. So we would have said direct monetary reparations, first and foremost, to close the racial wealth gap, right? Because we have to be specific with what we're speaking about when we say monetary reparations. We don't want to just make this blanket claim and throw it out there and make it seem as if the whole reparations package is based on just giving us money. No, reparations has several different layers to it, and direct cash payments is one of them. And we wouldn't say for the harms and vestiges of chattel slavery. We would use the terms that was used in the Supreme Court. Badges and incidents as a consequence of slavery. That's the proper language. We wouldn't have to use the words and its evolutions. Just wouldn't have to use that. So this is some of the very problematic language. So let me see if I can. Here's a doozy for y'all. Check this one out. Check this one out. Oh man, let us check this one out. Whereas the federal government must exonerate Marcus Mosiah Garvey and Callie House for their unjust targeting and imprisonment, and the president should issue a posthumous pardon to them. First and foremost, you only got one name right on in this proposal, and that's our great mother, Callie House. She is the only one that we are in the reparationist movement calling for a posthumous pardon for. Point blank, period. Marcus Garvey was a Jamaican. He was from the islands. He wasn't even an American citizen. Why would you be calling for a pardon for someone that was never an American citizen, which is why he was deported back to his country? Marcus Garvey's viewpoints didn't align with the great mother Callie House's viewpoints when it came to reparations. Marcus Garvey looked down upon us. He said he wouldn't even help a bum on the street. This was the attitude that he gave off. Go check our channel, and one of the mods, if you can, put that link in the chat, where BTP did a critical analysis of Marcus Garvey and the problematic stances that he took and the views that he had towards our people, and not just our people. He called the people in Africa backwards savages. We have nicknamed Marcus Garvey the Messiah of Mission Drift over here. And all of our great ancestors, W.E.B. Du Bois, A. Philip Randolph, and certain other freedmen up in the city of New York, particularly, they were against this man, Marcus Garvey. So we, as the reparationists on this side, the true reparationists, will not be calling for any posthumous pardons of Marcus Mosiah Garvey. No. This is this Pan-Africanist stuff that has crept into this reparations movement via bad actors like Nkechi Taifa, like Jam, Jessica Ann Mitchell Iwuyar, like Mark Thompson, like Ron Daniels, like Cam Howard, like Robin Ruth Simmons, like all of the people that are connected with NARC and in Cobra. And we must get in front of all of this, family. We must get in front of all of this. Point blank, period. What else, man? What else in this thing did I see that was problematic? Let me see. Where my notes at? Let me see. Okay, let's pull this up. Now, I know we already touched on the black part, but I want to speak to this language, right? So look at this language. Whereas, while the United States was founded on black plunder, it has yet to acknowledge, reconcile, and provide adequate redress for modern day disparities, right? So let me read that again. Whereas, while the United States was founded based on black plunder, this is false, family. The United States of America, this is historically inaccurate. It wasn't founded on black plunder. The United States of America was founded on the idea that the people called the founding fathers of this country wanted to break away from the British crown. They thought that the taxation that the crown was doing at the time was burdensome, and they basically couldn't eat properly. And one day we're going to do a breakdown on that, on how we get here, with just this country as the United States of America, because a lot of people really do not know that history. They don't know about Thomas Paine and what was going on in New England at that time when the colonies were flourishing. That's what the United States of America was founded on. It wasn't founded on black plunder. This is extremely problematic. And Cori Bush, I don't know if you would listen to this. I have no idea. But if you come across this, these people set you up. And mark my words, they are going to point out black plunder, and they're going to ridicule you all to the very lowest. And then what Fox News and Breitbart and all of the Blaze and all of the other right-wing media, ONN or what is it, OAN, what they're going to do is tie it to the broad reparationist movement. And then they're going to and rightfully so, this nonsense. And they're going to have people like Sister Camilla Moore's face plastered as the face of this trash right here. And that's going to happen. What happened with the 1619 project when Nicole Hannah-Jones, it was certain stuff that we was screaming from the rooftops when we were on Twitter, when this 1619 project was first being announced. Don't use 1619. We were saying that. Don't use 1619 as the start of slavery. Because that's not when slavery starts in this country. It's just not. That's when we have indentured servitude in this country in the same way that it was going on in Europe. Don't start there. And so the right-wing groups pounced on Nicole. She gave them that one thing to discredit everything else. That's why we at BTP are so strict in what we present. We are so strict in what we present. Peace, Sister Roz. I see you in the building. What's going on? Shout out to Black Contraband. Shout out to Frederick Jones L. The fam is up in here. The fam is up in here. So clearly, this is problematic that the country, the United States, was founded based on black plunder. Cori Bush, if you're listening, come holler. Come holler. If you want to get it right, come talk to the grassroots reparationists. We didn't just develop this information in some bubble or silo. This is based on painstaking research. This is based on even our prior schools of thought, where we did get a lot of stuff wrong, but we were able to learn. We were able to use a proverbial sieve and dig into the dirt of the stuff that we was into, that was for the most part pseudo-legal. But in that, we were able to sift out all of the dirt and pick out the choice pieces of gold, platinum, silver, and palladium. And we put those in our treasure chest so that when we entered this space, we entered this space with our own mind. That's why we got shout outs from the other reparationists that people think started this whole conversation. Now, we've been talking about reparations. We've been talking about this. Let me see. I think there's some more problematic language that I want to point out, right? Like even right here, the second line where it says, whereas black people are still presumed dangerous and therefore are systematically targeted and criminalized under our legal system, including through the war on drugs, yada, 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 stopping and arresting of black people by law enforcement. You got to get the language right. It's American freedmen. It is American freedmen. That is what the language has to say in this bill, because that is who America drafted up protections for. And through Supreme Court construction, make sure y'all check out our last live stream, because we broke construction down in a way that even a third grader could understand it. They were able to strip the efficacy of the 13th, 14th, and 15th, or what are commonly known as the Reconstruction Amendments. stripped it. And over time, they stopped using the terms freedmen and American freedmen to refer to us and started calling us by the old slave labels, black, Negroes, and coloreds. Then they said you cannot do race-based legislation. He said you cannot do it. Think, family. Think. If we could get to thinking, we'll save ourselves. We can save ourselves. If we but just got the thinking correctly, we'll save ourselves. And that has been a part of our mission, because that has always been a part of our mandate here at BTP. That's why my nickname is Mr. Just the Facts. Mr. Just the Facts. So let me see. What else? I'm going to point out some of this other problematic language before we get up off of here. I'm going to talk to some of the crazy stuff that's going on in the movement and why these people are winning. Let me see what I want to point out. Okay. I want to point out where we know these people have been listening to us. Let's see. Okay. Because here on BTP, there's an article that we cite since it came out. And most people know that we were, from our vantage point, right? Because we're not going to make some claim that this is our intellectual property just because we're talking about it and people are lifting our talking points. Only narcissistic sociopaths do stuff like that. If it's for the people, it's for the people. Point blank, period. Our problem is if it's being used wrong. And here we see it being used wrong. So I'm going to start from this point right here. Right? Let's start from where I highlight from. It says, whereas financial reparations must be paid by the federal government for an amount that respected economists have estimated totals at minimum $14 trillion to eliminate the racial wealth gap that currently exists between black and white Americans, right? So, well, yeah, we know that they're citing Dr. Darity. They're listening to us. They're listening. And we know that Dr. Darity has come up with that baseline amount, which is the term that Darity uses, baseline. And they chose to use the word at minimum because they want to try to, invoke some form of authenticity and originality in their draft. And we see it. We see what you're doing. We see you biting our lines. Those of us on this side of the reparationist movement, whether there's disunity there or not. The gap that currently exists between black and white Americans. And this is where we depart from even our fellow reparationists, because we are not using this language. We're not. Simple as that. We're not going to use black and white Americans in the drafting of this legislation or any proposals that we propose. And we are drafting some stuff right now. Powerful pieces. And we will be pushing those. I don't care if you're Republican or Democrat. Remember, we are policy first, not party first. Party doesn't matter to us when you are trying to push the policies that we say and know is going to help uplift our people. Point blank, period. So we won't use terms like black and white Americans and racial wealth gap. We don't use racial wealth gap. We just say the wealth gap that exists for American freedmen. Simple as that. The wealth gap that exists for American freedmen. We get to break that wealth gap down. Remove the words that will trigger strict scrutiny. Remove them. That's why the stream I did the other day, the white chick said, what about poor whites? not because they are Negroes. No, no, no. Not because they are Negroes, but because they are men who have been for generations despoiled their rights. This is what Charles Sumner, former Massachusetts senator, said when the Freedmen's Bureau and the Freedmen's Savings and Trust Bank was established. See, we're going to cook over here, family, and we're going to teach it how it's supposed to be taught. No ulterior motives, no underlying nonsense. We just going to give it to you straight up raw. It says, whereas scholars have estimated that the United States benefited from 222,505,049 hours of forced labor between 1619 and the end of slavery in 1865, which would be valued at 16. You cannot use 1619 in a reparations proposal. See, what Narcan and Cobra are trying to do with this language is diasporize. I just made that up. Let me see, diasporize. Diasporize or diasporize? Diasporize. I think I like that better. What they're trying to sneak in is their push for America to pay every black person, in the world, basically, for reparations. If you listen to them real carefully, that's what they want. When you corner them on it, they say, no, the black people in America. I don't care if they just got off a plane last week. This is what either Cam Howard or Ron Daniel said. Really, they both have said the same thing. Both said the same thing. Arthur Ward said, diasporize is new but proper. Thank you. Y'all know we be coming up with some stuff over here. Right? This way, the liability is not on the United States. The liability gets shared with the colonies under King James I's decree that sent these colonists off to colonize the New World. Yes, that same King James that's on the back of most of y'all's Bibles. Again, as I said earlier, 1619 is not a proper date because those 20 and odd Negroes, as we were called by the Anglo-Saxons over here, the European Americans, aka white folk, they were indentured servants. Their story is clear in the historical records. And this is what the right wing used against Nicole Hannah-Jones. We've been teaching on that 10 years prior. 10 years prior. That's right. That's right, Sister Roz. We've been saying 1776 is when America started. We've been saying that. That's when you start with the process of culpability. The point of culpability. When this country becomes a nation. And it says all men are created equal in its Declaration of Independence. When it says we the people. We've been breaking this stuff down on this channel, family. We've been breaking it down. So let me finish reading this and then I'll close it out and give some more commentary. It says, whereas if the United States closed racial gaps for black people in the areas of housing, education, wages, and investment 20 years ago, $16 trillion could have been added to the economy. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that they got that from Be the Power, because we've been saying that since that article was first published. When it was first published, we've been showing that article. Brother Ali put a message in the inbox. He says, yes, but African enslavement started with the Spaniards in New Spain in the early 1500s, which included much of what is the United States, started before the Anglo arrival. Now, that's true. That's true. But when we're speaking about 1619 and those colonies that came over here under what is it called? The ones that received the charter. Somebody help me out. The Dutch, the East West Indian Company. I'm drawing a blank on the name. Somebody help me out with that one. But the Dutch West India Company, right? So, like that group is what forms the United States of America. Those Africans that were brought over here in the early 1500s, we really don't have any records or anybody that can trace themselves back to those individuals. And even still, and even if we could, right, we would probably find that they too became victims of chattel slavery. And again, this is why that 1619 portion of it is extremely problematic. So if y'all have not read the text to this bill, we're putting it in the inbox now, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the reparations movement in general, because you know these people are flexing on us, family. Go to Cori. Matter of fact, let's go to Cori Bush's Twitter page. Let's go to Cori Bush's Twitter page. Pull up. I mean, I guess I don't have to pull up the videos. Yeah, I don't have to. I mean, it was just that Washington thing, boy. I'm not going to pull it. I don't got to pull it up. I've read this stuff already. I don't have to pull that up. We see who the problematic people are. I called them out earlier. Make sure y'all go back and check out the live stream. So I want to speak to the reparationists. You know, some people don't like when we assert ourselves like the men that we are. You know, but we're going to always do that. So that just because you don't like it, that doesn't mean we're going to stop expressing ourselves, because that's what people want. They want us to get behind them. They want us to say things the way they want them to say them. Naheem, you fight too much. This is what somebody texted me a couple weeks ago after I was disrespected in the Twitter space. You always want to fight. It's like, no, I'm always punching back at people who are trying to fight me. And because they don't got knockout power like I got, you just see when their bodies are sprawled out on the floor and you automatically blame it on me. Nah, that's not what it is. But anyway, to those of you in this reparationist movement, for those of you who are serious, well, first let me say, we at the United Sons and Daughters of Freedmen are establishing chapters all over the country. We have several already established, and over the next month, we are going to have several more established in several different states. I won't announce that here, but we're going to make those announcements as soon as it happens. We're going to update that on our website. and we are going to update our board members because we've added several new board members. We've finally added daughters to the Freedmen, right? We've always had sons. We've been calling out for daughters for the longest, but people move how they move, and at the end of the day, it is what it is. At the end of the day, it is what it is. So, I mean, those of you who are serious, look at what I just broke down today. Brother Ibrahim came on to share some thoughts as well. Look at what we broke down on the last live stream. The fact of the matter is, we are helping to bring an education to this space in a way that was unheard of before. And even those that are academically smarter, if you will, than us, if you will, at the end of the day, they see it for what it is as well. That what we are presenting is airtight, soundproof, impervious, impenetrable, and whatever other superlative that you could think of that goes with the ones that I just mentioned. They know it. They know it. The haters, they know it as well. That's why they try to fight against what it is that we're doing over here, because they know that it's powerful. And some people would rather, I was watching Star Trek years back, the Wrath of Khan. I don't know if this was in the movie or the series episode where Khan is in it. And I know I might be dating myself, but I'm growing into an OG. So it is what it is. I ain't ashamed of that at all. I look good for my age, strong, still nice with my hands, and swift on my feet. It is what it is. But in that episode, Khan asked Captain Kirk a question. Would you rather rule in hell or serve in heaven? It's a deep question. I may have been 16, 17 at the time, but that question stuck with me till this day. And I had to answer that question to myself. I said I would rather, at that young age, I said I would rather serve in heaven. And I used as an example the Transformers cartoon, where not Optimus, Megatron, the leader of the Decepticons, apt name, was always being challenged by his underling Starscream. Starscream always wanted Megatron's spot. Always. He knew he wasn't as powerful as him, but any sign of weakness, Starscream was going to try to take over. And that's what it's like to rule in hell. And that's what we're witnessing with a lot of these groups. You got these groups that have these spaces that had 35,000 people in them. And then the next thing you know, they start eating each other. Then they had to recruit a bunch of other people that don't got education the first on anything, but they're good at making memes and mumble raps. They're not about what we're about. Those people, I mention them only to say that this space is riddled with people that do not care about pushing this thing forward. Then you have this other layer of people. Some of them are very bright, very smart. And because they see a group of men over at BTP, their misandry kicks in. And so they try to oppose us at every go. They're right with us right until we get to the finish line. Then they turn around and they try to go and do something else. Okay, Ross said that was the TV show. Thank you, Sister Ross. Thank you. That's right, Sister Corny Pop said. I am kind of cocky. I can't help it. That's what it is what it is. That's just, it's a part of our attitude over here. Ain't nothing wrong with that. Ain't nothing wrong with being a little bit cocky. Straight up. But these people that would be good fingers in the fist, they choose to cut their fingers off and try to wiggle around on their own, pointing at stuff, while we are closed fists punching everything in our path. And when I say punching, I'm not just talking about the naysayers and the haters. I'm talking about the white supremacists that are trying to stop us. I'm talking about the people that I call the black pets of the Democratic Party that we just witnessed trying to stop us. Those people who are pictured in the thumbnail of this video. Our arguments are effective. A Boogie said, not cocky, I'm confident. So when I tell you I'm the best, that's a compliment. Yeah, you know, I get it. I get it. You know, I get it. But get a little Jada bars up in here, a little Jada. Muffin Nellen said that comes from John Milton's Paradise Lost. Yes, he was citing John Milton on that Star Trek episode, Brother Muffin Nellen. That is a fact. And I haven't been able to see all of the comments. Shout out to Brother Charlie Jacobs in the building. Sister Corny Pop said, everybody else that I did not see. A Boogie, you know. But there was speaking of hip hop bars, there was a hip hop track that said you could get with this or you could get with that. You could get with this or you could get with that. I think you'll get with this because this is where it's at. You have other reparationists. Y'all know who I'm talking about, the four-letter group, the four-letter hashtag group, and even the three-letter hashtag group. These people are not in this from our vantage point. They're not in this thing for reparations. They're just not. I've watched as people in the three-letter group actively undermine Gabriel Piemonte, a candidate for Chicago's 5th Ward that we brought on to give some more exposure to and bring support to. Now him and them promoting this guy, this white guy. I've read his policies on air. It was people that they were pushing for that didn't even have websites. The people from the three-letter organization. The three-letter organizations. Yeah, that too, DP, because I'm from New York. I got a semi-automatic. That's next time that you talk. But yeah. So they actively undermined this man. I mean, they went and called for everybody against Gabe so that they could get at me. It was just the craziest thing. Now we're looking at the mayor of Chicago, who's aligned with the person that got elected in Chicago's 5th Ward. First, he was all for the immigrants until our people started waking up out there. And a lot of that rhetoric that we heard at that press conference, it comes from out of this reparationist space. And that's why this space is so powerful. That's why we as a collective are so powerful. So with that, we are able to see who the true reparationists are and who the phony ones are, who are the grifters that are doing this for their own personal gain and self-aggrandizement. Those people, like the ones in the four-letter group that criticize everything that every other reparationist group is doing just for the sake of criticizing it because they're not doing anything. The Negro problem was a term that was used by W.E.B. Du Bois and several other early literary freedmen to highlight not just our economic condition, but the mindset that was produced by our lack of economic stability and the fact that we were just, basically a generation removed out of slavery. That problem has persisted. We at Be the Power have been fortunate to have walked through several schools of thought that help take down that Negro problem, right? We solved it within ourselves first, long before we came into this space. Now, we know how to get in the mud with the best of them. I'll grab my machete or my 2 axes and jump right in the mud pit. Is, every once in a blue, just another hip hop reference, Mobb Deep. Sometimes I test myself to see if I still got it. We all in with the hip hop references today. But ultimately, my doing that is to say, all right, this is not it. This is not it. Now elevate the conversation. Now come over and listen to our space. Come listen to Professor Ali go in. Come listen to Brother Ibrahim give his super sharp analytical breakdowns. Listen to Brother Josh's breakdowns of how he breaks down the numbers with the history and the great analogies that he uses. Go back and listen to the old episodes where our brother Logic is absolutely going in from the political, historical, and pretty much all of the perspectives. Even our brother Grimm going in on how the history is being played out in front of our eyes today and how what was happening then is happening now. Our team is strong and we will remain such. Our team is strong. That's why we go at the people like Sabir Bey. That guy came in our chat earlier bringing up Sabir Bey. Sabir Bey, if you would have closed your eyes, you would have thought you was listening to every white person on Fox News that's against reparations. Y'all heard us read from out of the bloody shirt. No, we don't want to give the niggers no money, because if you give the niggers money, they'll go spend it all on whiskey. Not true. We spent our money. We spent our money with each other by growing subsistence crops and building our own trade and barter amongst each other and white folks at that time, so much so that we started to make deposits into the Freedmen Trust and Savings Bank off of the deposits that were used as startup capital, which came from those freedmen that fought in the Civil War that came out of the state of Louisiana. This is history that we're talking about here. You got these brothers running around talking about, we just gonna go blow it, like Umar and Sabir Bey. We just gonna go blow it. Well, why would you give the people money? That's like giving them a loaded gun. We got to get our minds right first. Like, you sound just like the white people when we got out of slavery and they were talking about giving us direct cash payments. Who team were you on, bruh? Because you ain't on this team, not the winning team. This the winning team over here, and you can hear it in our language and what we're talking about, and how you can track and trace everything that we say back through the historical precedents. They, when it's established, I think they call that antecedents as well. That's right, Sister Ross. That's right. So yeah, man. So I'm not gonna stay on too much longer. I just wanted to speak to the people who are serious about making moves, because I'm through trying to unify with people in this space. That is a wrap. I've seen enough disloyalty and disunity. I didn't think that I would see that here. Not like that anyway. You're going to come across the people that have their issues, but you would think that people would put their own personal issues aside. And when I say personal issues, I don't mean the personal issues that they have with other folks. I mean their own personal issues. Like, people need therapy. They need therapy. period. I've taken a couple therapy sessions. I came away feeling I didn't need therapy sessions, but that's another story. Some people feel that way, which is why they probably need therapy in the first place. I'm dead serious, y'all. I took a couple therapy sessions. So let me try this thing out. I always wanted to try it out. Seemed like the therapist didn't even know how to respond to me during the conversations. I was like, I don't know if I need this. I think I need something else. You know what? Maybe I got it already. Maybe I got it. Maybe, right? This is what we tell ourselves, and I can be wrong. I can be wrong. But anyway, some of us need some therapy. We need some get right. We need some act right. I ain't gonna say what I was just about to say, but some of y'all can figure it out with some people that's in this space that's hate and need. They need something. It is what it is. But we gotta hit the streets and we gotta build with the people where they are. That's what we're doing on our side. Go to our website, usadof.org, so that you can see a lot of the newsletters that we're putting out. If you're on the email list, you will see when we're doing certain events. When we publicize these things on our website through our newsletter that we put out. And sometimes it's not necessarily a newsletter. It's just, when an event happens, we'll share it through our website. Go to usadof.org. Go to usadof.org and read our article that's called Our Letter to the Supreme Court. And I got to change something in that article because I said that we mailed that letter to the Supreme Court. No, it was hand delivered by Brother Josh. He walked that in there and gave it to, I believe it was Ketanji Brown Jackson's clerk. I want to say maybe Kavanaugh's. I think Josh could correct me on that if he's listening. But yeah. So we got to get it right. This was a light masterclass that I gave tonight. A light one. Could you imagine if the whole team was on tonight? We'd be running 3 hours, still breaking this thing down to its bare minimum. Because I think they all brighter than me. I'm just going to keep it official. I just think they all sharper than me. I just do what I do. Just do what I do. So I'm getting up off there, family. Thank you all for listening. If you haven't clicked that like button, make sure you click that like button. Subscribe to the channel. This is our BTP Media Group channel. It looks a little different. Some of you might be like, what happened to my wrench? You might not have gotten a wrench on this channel. I don't know. I haven't looked and checked in a while. But shout out to all of you who have listened in. Support the channel, man. Y'all can cash out, be the power. We take contributions, man. I'll go to our website. You can send your donations through our 501c3. We have an official 501c3 where you can deduct that in your taxes when you do your taxes at the end of the year. Because instead of giving people like Sabir Bay donations, which are not going to 501c3s, it's just going in his pocket, and you can't do nothing with that at the end of tax year. Can't do nothing with it. You just lost your money to a pseudologist. So thank you, Sister Shanna. Thank you. She said great discussion, and it was needed. Shout out to our Sister Shanna. Shout out to all of our people in California that we do rock with. Point blank, period. I could be a little petty. But anyway, y'all know what time it is, man. I'll leave you all with the motto of our platform, which is don't just fight the power, become the power, and then and only then will you have the power to make a change. And with that, I say peace.